we're gonna be talking today. Yay! Hello and welcome to my channel, The Danish Readaholic. My name is Silka and today I'm doing a bookish this or that video. I like this or that. I like being like, which do I actually prefer? Kind of like discussing my way into an answer. But I'm discussing it with myself. I have, 25 this or that questions. Some will be very quick for me to answer. Others will, I will talk a little bit more about those. So let's just get into it. So hardcover or paperback? This is a question that I get quite a lot. Also from my boyfriend, because he never knows if he should get me hardcovers or paperbacks. And I don't know either. I think I gravitate towards hardbacks, but paperbacks are just easier to bring along, but I don't bring along books all that often anymore. I usually listen to audiobooks if I'm, on the go. So I think I'm going for hardcover, but that's also because, usually I take the dust jacket off and then it doesn't really matter how the spine looks underneath or how the cover itself looks underneath. So I don't need to be as careful with it as I feel like I have to do with paperbacks, because one little crease and you can see it. But that's just also me wanting my spines on my paperbacks to look pristine, which I know that doesn't bother that many people, but it bothers me a little bit. So I think I'm ending up going for hardback. All right, next up we have new book smell or old book smell, and both are really nice. I don't think I have a preference. I like both, but both of them are like very different. Also, it's been a while since I've smelled like a really old book. So it's been a while since I've had that old book smell. So I'm not necessarily like 100% sure how it would smell, but I think based on that I'm going for new book smell. Standalone or series? I love a good standalone here and again, but I just feel like there's a greater opportunity for character development and world building if you're making a series. I know you can also do that in a standalone, but it's just secluded into this one book, and then the world will, maybe sometimes they will do like spin-offs or set another book in the same world, but we're not going to be following the same characters again. And I am a person that develops quite a bond to characters that I like, so I have a hard time letting go of them. So I definitely love when there is a series so that I can continue following along in their stories. So I'm 100% a series person, but I do like a standalone here and again. E-reader or physical book? I probably should have changed this to audio or physical book, because between e-reader and physical book, it's physical book all the way. I want to say can't, but of course I can. Everybody can. But there's just something that feels wrong for me when I'm reading on like an iPad, or I haven't tried a Kindle, so that might be different. But when I'm reading on an iPad or a computer or on my phone, it just feels like, it feels wrong. It feels like reading an article or like reading social media. So it doesn't give me the cozy vibes or the enjoyment I normally get from reading when I read off of like a screen. But when it comes to audiobooks versus physical books, I would probably still say I prefer physical books, but I don't have as much time anymore to sit down and read as I normally would, or I have done in the past. There's just a lot more in my like everyday life that takes up time. So reading is something I do a lot with my ears. So I love audiobooks, and I've found like some really great narrators that have brought life to some really great books. But I also still prefer reading physical books. Annotating or keeping books pristine? Well, as I've already said, I love keeping my books pristine, but I have considered, and this is like a thing that I think I might do for next year, trying to reread one of my favorite books and then annotating them. So far, I think I'm gonna go for These Violent Delights. I might choose something else, but so far it's These Violent Delights. And I've been considering just buying like a paperback secondhand and then annotating that, because I don't think I will feel as bad about it. But it's something that I want to try and do because I like the idea of annotating, but I'm also really, like, I have soft spot for some of my books, so I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it in those books. But some of my absolute favorites, I would definitely consider getting a paperback secondhand and then annotating those. So I might do that. Bookstore or library? Well, bookstore. But that is because the books that I'm interested in are usually not at the library, and definitely not in English. So it's basically down to I don't really have much of a choice. So the Danish libraries are obviously focused very much on Danish books. We do have a section that is English books, but it's usually the very, very, very popular ones. So maybe some book talk favorites. I haven't been there in a while, actually. So maybe I should go and check it out soon just to see what kind of books they have. But it's usually like a few popular book talk books, and then we have like Nicholas Sparks, and we have some crime stuff because everybody in Denmark reads fucking crime books. Like, what is going on? It's one of the most popular genres, actually. Fantasy, not so much. It is not popular one bit. I'm always like super excited when I find someone else in Denmark who reads fantasy, but it is not a popular genre. So no, it's bookstore all the way. Also leads me to a very easy answer for the next one, which is buying books or borrowing books. I like buying books. Not just because I don't really have that option of borrowing at the library. I could borrow from some of my friends, but I like owning the books and having a library, as you can see, which technically is not a library because you need over 1,000 books for it to be a library. But it's a dream of mine to eventually have a library. We'll see if my boyfriend lets me do that. Taking up the entire living room. But yeah, no, I definitely like having the books available to me all the time. And if I want to reread a book, I can just go to my own personal library and, you know, have a look at it. I've also experienced that it's a great, like, a lot of people, when they see my bookshelf or when they come visit us, they definitely talk a lot about, oh my god, there's so many books and blah blah blah, have you read all of them? So I like that also, like that aspect of it, the conversation piece in having that many books. So yeah, I think I'm more into buying books than I am borrowing. Read in silence or read with background noise. Depends on the day. Normally, I read with background noise. I have like 3 playlists on Spotify that's called something reading. I think I have Reading 101, I have Reading 2.0, and I have Really More Reading ... All of them are like soundtracks or just instrumental music that I listen to when I read, because no voices, please. Then I can't concentrate. I've figured out that if I'm listening to a song in Danish and reading in English or vice versa, then I can still focus on my book because it's not the same language and I can kind of tune it out, which is strange, but it works. Do I do it? No. It's just I can sit in an environment of people talking in Danish and still read in English. If people were talking in English and I was reading in English, I don't think I would be able to focus. But sometimes I do have days where any kind of noise is just distracting to me. But sometimes it's annoying. Most of the time I like reading with a background noise. I also use the ambient thing that you can find on YouTube. I use that quite a lot. When I read Daughter of the Pirate King, I found like Pirate Tavern ambient sound. So I'm trying to match it to the books that I'm reading. Which is actually really nice. Morning reading or night reading? I am definitely a night reading person. I am very tired in the mornings, and yeah, so I'm a night reading person through and through. Reading at home or reading outside? Reading at home, because I like reading at home all year round. Reading outside only during the summer. I like reading at the beach or reading in the park or going somewhere where I can sit comfortably and read. There's just nothing that beats reading at home under a blanket with a candle and snacks and coffee or hot chocolate or tea, whatever. There's just nothing that beats that, in my opinion. Reading one book at a time or multiple books at a time. Well, I'm reading multiple books at the time, or at a time. And that is, once again, because I do one book as an audio that I read when I commute, and one book as a physical book that I read at home, like before bed or something. Reading multiple books at a time, that is what I'm doing currently, so I can't really say anything other than that. Long chapters or short chapters? Please give me short chapters. I feel like I breeze through books when they have short chapters, and books with long chapters take me a year to read. Not really, but you know what I mean. I feel like short chapters are great. I love it. I mean, sometimes it does make sense to have like one long chapter, but it just takes me longer to get through a book with long chapters. That's just how it is. First person POV or third person POV? I don't have an opinion on that, honestly. I don't care. I don't. Multiple POV or single POV. I like multiple. I love that. Especially like now I'm reading An Ember in the Ashes, and I like that we follow the girl and then the guy and then kind of see their story intertwined from both perspectives and what they think of what each other does. I love that. But I also love a single POV. It kind of makes me, like when we have those kind of love stories and we only see it from one point of view, it isn't really confirmed if the other person likes them or not, or if they're just pretending to, or if they've misread the signs or something. So that is also very intriguing. But I do like multiple POV. More so than a single POV. Fantasy or contemporary, do I even need to explain? I'm a fantasy girl through and through. Enemies to lovers or friends to lovers. Once again, like if you know me at all, you'll know that I don't actually like friends to lovers. I think it's too easy in a way. And it's usually like, oh, I've been in love with you all my life and I've just been afraid to tell you because I didn't want to ruin our friendship. Get over yourself. I don't want that. I want them hating each other and then something just switches and then all of a sudden they're just in love. I want that. That's what I want. Plot driven or character driven? I don't know. I like both. I like, fleshed out characters, but of course it also has to have like a compelling plot. I'm gonna go character driven. I feel like I've read books that were plot driven where I felt like the characters were kind of left behind, even though they were like main characters and stuff. But I like it when we have really detailed characters and a great like maybe background story, something along those lines. Of course, it also needs to have, great plot, but I would rather have a character driven book with a good plot than a plot driven book with good characters. I don't know, actually. Do I care? I read everything. Slow burn or instant love? Slow burn. It kind of comes with the enemies to lovers. If it's not slow burn, then it feels unrealistic. So a good enemies to lovers has slow burn, and that is what I love. I don't even want to comment anymore on it. I don't like instant love. It feels a little unrealistic, usually tied to friends to lovers, and I don't like that one bit. Paper bag with a broken spine or never crack the spine. I've already touched upon that. Never crack the spine. I don't mind if I have bought a book that has a cracked spine. I just don't want to be the person who cracks the spine, but I prefer them non-cracked. Reading slump or DNF. I am not good at DNFing books. I wish I were, because some books I definitely should have DNF'd, but I'm just not good at it. My new strategy is when I'm feeling like, if I'm reading a physical book and I'm feeling like, oh, I can't do it, I switch it over to audio. If I can't find it as an audio, I'll put it back on my shelf and then read it at another time. And I have had some reading slumps. I actually don't know how I'm supposed to answer this question because is it like, would I rather be in a reading slump or would I rather DNF? Then I would rather DNF. I would rather have like one book where I'm like, this is not for me, and then DNF it, than I would have a reading slump, because that sucks. Cliffhanger ending or neat resolution. I like cliffhangers. But of course, if you're ending an entire series, I don't want an open ending. I don't want to be like, we don't know if they lived happily ever. They don't have to live happily ever after, but I kind of want to know, like, if it's the end of a series, I want that neat resolution. I want it to be tied up in a bow, given to me. This is what happened with these characters when you left them. This is where they're going. Great. Perfect. I like that. I don't want it to be like, and then they rode off into the sunset to defeat the dragon, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but did they? Did they solve it? When I left them, did they solve it? You know? In between, like if it's a series, let's go for a series. In between, I like cliffhangers. I prefer cliffhangers. I don't want it ending and then having to go back up again. I want to be like, oh, I need to move on to the next book. When we go to the end of the series, I would like the neat resolution. I have read one standalone, though, that didn't have a neat resolution, at least in the aspect of the love interest thing. It was a very open ending. And normally I don't like it, but this one, it made so much sense that it was like, maybe they'll get together at a later point, but right now it's not what is right for any of them. And it was correct. And I was happy about that. But normally I prefer when it's the end of a story, I want a neat resolution, I think. I like how I started out saying cliffhangers, but then ended up with neat resolution. Cover by or recommendation read. I am very much a cover by. I will, not necessarily cover by, but like cover discover. I'll discover a book by the cover. If it's a cover that intrigues me, I will look into what the book is about. But I also do like reading books that have been recommended to me. However, it depends on who recommended it. I have a very close friend called Victoria. We read like similar books. If she recommends me a book, I will put it on my list. At least put it on my list to read about, to see if it's something I would like. Same with Caitlin. If she recommends a book, I will read it. But that's also because, like with Caitlin, we read similarly, not one-to-one. Victoria and I are one-to-one. We read the exact same thing. Caitlin and I read similarly, but Caitlin is very aware of what I like in books, so she knows if she should recommend it or not. So those two people, I would definitely read what they recommend me. Other people, depends. I will research it. I will always research it, but then we'll figure out if I add it to my list. Crying over a book or laughing out loud at a book. Even though this may sound weird, I prefer crying over a book. I mean, I like, of course, having fun books that I can laugh at and blah, blah, blah. But the emotional impact I get from, like, you know, getting to the point where I tear up, that is where I feel like I have fallen in love with the characters. I have fallen in love with the story. I actually care what happens to them. So for me, crying over a book is because I'm so invested in this world or in these characters or in this book in general. So that is an indicator to me that I actually absolutely love this book. So crying. Because laughing, I would laugh at something that is funny even though I don't care about the characters one bit. So to me, crying over a book is because I'm invested in the story, in the characters, in the book. So I'm going for crying. Big books, 500 plus pages, or short books under 300. Middle books. I, like when looking at my reading year this year, a lot of the books that I have read have been in between 300 and 500 books. And that is the realm of length that I like in books. But if I had to choose, I don't know. I'm gonna have to leave that open and say that I'll go for middle books. So in between 300 and 500, that's my favorite. Final question, always carry a book or only read at home? Currently, I'm in school. So when I go to school, I usually have school books and my computer with me. So it's already quite heavy. So I am not bringing a book with me. However, I like the idea of always having a book at hand. But as long as I have my phone and my headphones, I always have a book at hand. But are we talking, like, if we're talking physical books, then always read at home or only read at home, if I had to choose. But I like both. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment telling me if you prefer cliffhangers or neat resolutions, because that was apparently the one that I was very indecisive about. And also, if you have any more this or that questions, because I like doing these, so let me know if you have some this or that questions. I will add them to the next round. I don't know when it will be, but sometime next year. If you just want to let me know that you're here but don't know what to comment, please leave a tea emoji because I'm drinking tea. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and until I see you next time, bye!